At 45, she had no savings, no job, and a foreclosure notice on her kitchen table. Her marriage was over. The career she had built for 20 years had disappeared in a single Tuesday afternoon meeting. She had 2 kids, a mortgage she could no longer afford, and a skill set she had been told was out of date. Most people in that position spend the next 10 years getting smaller. She did not. What she built in the next 18 months would be worth more than everything she lost. This is that story. Her name for this story is Carol, and the details matter because they are so ordinary. She had spent 2 decades in corporate marketing, not glamorous work, campaign management, vendor coordination, the unglamorous machinery behind other people's brands. She was good at it. She had a title, a salary, a 401k, and the quiet confidence of someone who has figured out how to be reliable in a world that rewards reliability. Then, in the spring of 2019, the company restructured. Her entire department was eliminated. Not underperformance, not failure. Just a spreadsheet decision made by someone she had never met. 42 people lost their positions on a Tuesday. Carol was 44 years old. 6 months later, her marriage, which had been deteriorating quietly for years, collapsed completely. The house was in her ex-husband's name. She had 60 days to leave. She moved into a 2-bedroom apartment with her teenage daughter and her 12-year-old son. Her savings lasted 4 months. She applied for 72 jobs over 16 weeks. She received 11 responses. 3 of those were automated rejections. 2 were for positions paying 60% of her previous salary. None of them called her back. Here is the thing nobody talks about when they tell the comeback story. There is a period before the comeback when nothing is happening. When the answer to, "What are you doing now?" is genuinely nothing. When the most honest thing you can say is, "I do not know what comes next." Carol spent 8 months in that space. It started with a skill she had long undervalued. 20 years of marketing work meant Carol knew how to tell a story about a product. She knew how to position, how to photograph, how to write copy that made someone feel something. She had done it for other companies for 2 decades. It had never occurred to her to do it for herself. In month 9 of unemployment, a friend who ran a small ceramics shop mentioned offhand that she had no idea how to sell online. Her pieces were beautiful. She was breaking even at local craft fairs. She had a website that looked like it was built in 2007. Carol offered to help. Not for money, just to have something to do with her hands and her brain. Within 3 months, the ceramics shop's Etsy revenue had tripled. Her friend insisted on paying her. Carol was reluctant. This did not feel like work. It felt too easy, too much like something she already knew how to do. That reluctance is a signal worth paying attention to. What feels easy to you is hard for someone else. What you take for granted about your own skill set, another person is desperately searching for. Carol had 20 years of training in a discipline that hundreds of small business owners needed and could not afford to hire an agency to provide. She registered her business in October 2019, a sole proprietorship, a laptop, a client list of 1. The first year was not a success story. That part is important. Carol did not have a breakthrough month. She did not land a massive client. She did not go viral. She had 3 clients by December: the ceramics artist, a local handmade soap business, and a woman who made custom dog portraits and sold them through Instagram. Combined revenue that first quarter, just under $8,000, before expenses, before taxes. What she had was momentum, and she had learned to recognize what momentum actually feels like. Not excitement, not certainty. Momentum feels like showing up to a desk at 7 a.m. even though no one is forcing you to. It feels like sending the email when you do not feel ready. It feels like raising your rate by 20% when every part of you says, "That is too much," and watching the client say yes without hesitation. She raised her rate in February of 2020, from $900 a month per client to $1,400. She was afraid to do it. She did it anyway. All 3 clients stayed. Then March 2020 arrived. The pandemic shut down 2 of her 3 clients' physical operations overnight. She expected to lose them. Instead, she got a phone call from both on the same afternoon. They needed to move everything online immediately. Could she help? Carol spent March through June of 2020 working 14-hour days helping 2 small businesses move their entire customer acquisition strategy online. Product photography shot in living rooms, social media built from zero, email lists grown from nothing. One of those clients, the soap business, grew their online revenue by 400% in that calendar year. Carol's cut of that relationship, $22,000 for the year. That was the first year she understood what she was actually building. 3 years later, Carol has 8 ongoing clients. Annual revenue, just over $310,000. She works from a small studio she rents 3 days a week. Her daughter just started college. Her son is 15 and helps her with video editing on weekends. She talks about what she learned with the careful precision of someone who spent a long time figuring out which parts of the story actually mattered. The first lesson: desperation is not a business plan, but necessity is a clarity machine. When you have nothing, no salary, no title, no safety net, you stop wasting time on activities that feel productive but produce nothing. You move faster. Not recklessly, but with the focus of someone who cannot afford to be confused. The second lesson: the skill you think is ordinary is someone else's impossible problem. Every business owner she now serves is paralyzed by something she considers basic. This is not because she is exceptional. It is because 20 years of practice in anything makes you fluent in a language other people are still spelling their way through. The third lesson, and she says this is the one she wishes someone had told her at 44. Starting over does not mean starting from zero. You are not a blank slate. You are a person with 2 decades of experience, relationships, context, and hard-won pattern recognition. That is not nothing. In many ways, that is more than a 25-year-old with a business idea and no scar tissue has. Here is what Carol's story actually teaches, stripped of the inspiration and turned into something you can use. Step 1. Audit your transferable skills as if they belong to someone else. Sit down with a piece of paper and write down every professional task you have performed in the last 10 years. Not your job titles. The actual tasks. The things you did when no one was watching that made projects actually work. Organizing complex information. Managing difficult relationships. Writing clearly under pressure. Making decisions with incomplete data. These are not job skills. They are business assets. Step 2. Find one person who needs what you already know. Not 100 clients. Not a product launch. One person with a real problem that your existing skill set could solve. Solve it. Then ask them what else they need. Carol's first client was a ceramics artist in a coffee shop. That conversation was worth more than any business course she could have taken. Step 3. Price based on the value you deliver, not on what feels comfortable to charge. Carol made the same mistake most first-time service providers make. She priced to avoid rejection, rather than to reflect value. When she finally raised her rates, every client stayed, because the problem was never the price. The problem was her own uncertainty about whether she deserved it. Step 4. Do not wait until you feel ready. Carol did not feel ready in October 2019. She feels ready now because she did the work for 5 years. Readiness is a result of showing up, not a prerequisite for it. The foreclosure notice is still somewhere in a box. Carol has not thrown it away. She says it reminds her of something she needs to remember on slow weeks, that she built everything she has now from a moment when she had nothing. Not youth, not capital, not a perfect plan. Just 44 years of accumulated skill and a choice to stop waiting for someone else to give her a title. If you are reading this at 40, at 50, at 62, if you are in the part of the story that feels like nothing is happening, I want you to hear this clearly. Carol was not exceptional. She was not lucky. She was not discovered. She simply looked at what she already knew how to do and decided, for the first time in 20 years, to do it for herself. The question is not whether it is too late. The question is what you already know that someone else urgently needs. If this story moved you or gave you something to work with, subscribe to this channel. Every Tuesday and Friday, I share stories exactly like this one. Real people, real decisions, real results. No hustle culture shortcuts, no manufactured drama. Just what actually happened and what you can take from it. 90-Day Transformation Planner is for exactly this kind of restart. It is not a goal-setting worksheet. It is a structured system for mapping your existing skills, identifying your first client, pricing your work, and building momentum from day one. Link is in the description below. Also, if you like to read this story deeply, links are in description too. Drop a comment and tell me one skill you have from your past career or your life that you have always undervalued. I will see you in the next story.